Okay, so we're going to review for the test that we're going to have tomorrow. And the test is mainly on graphing quadratics. Mainly graphing quadratics. There's 20 questions. I mean, some of them are three-point questions and stuff. So there's 20 points per se out of the 25 that come from graphing parabolas or that come from stating information of quadratics, like find the vertex, state the axis of symmetry, state the maximum value or the minimum value. You know, all those questions that we've been doing the past week or so, 20 of those are based on parabolas, and only 5 questions are on solving quadratics by factoring, right? Yesterday we touched on factoring. We're only going to have 5 of the 25, so it's not that much, but it's still very significant when it comes to this test. So let's talk about the first 20 questions. You guys remember we had a little piece of paper, a little slip of paper, and it had these 4 questions on there, find the vertex. And we actually made a video on this. I think it was on Friday. If you find that in your notebook, this is something really good to study. And let me tell you how I'm going to ask it. You will be responsible to answer any one of these, all right, or all of these, right? You need to be able to state the vertex of any one of these 4, state the axis symmetry of any one of these 4, state the max or min of any one of these 4, state the Y-intercept, state the domain, and the range, right? So that's 6 different things I could ask of any of these. And let me tell you, on the test, I'm actually going to go to this and select maybe 3 of these 4, okay? And I'm gonna label them. Instead of y, I might call this f of x, okay? Instead of y right here, I want to call it g of x. Maybe this one right here. Instead of y, I'll call it h of x, right? Whoa. So why would I do that? So I could give you these 3 functions, well, 3 out of the 4, and I want to put them on top of your paper on your test, and then I'll tell you, hey, find the vertex of h of x. So you got to go to h of x, find the vertex. And then the next question is not going to be on h of x. I might tell you, find the axis of symmetry of f of x. So you go to f of x and you find the axis of symmetry, right? So we're going to label them f of x, g of x, h of x. That way I could ask specific questions on each of them. All right, so let's do an example. I might ask you to state the axis of symmetry of, I don't know, pick one. H of x. Okay, so I might tell you, state the axis of symmetry of h of x. So what do we need to do to state the axis of symmetry of h of x? You need the x value of your vertex, right? And let me tell you, the vertex is the most important thing, right? When you're graphing, right here we're not even graphing, but vertex is the most important thing because if you know your vertex, then you'll know your axis of symmetry. It'll simply be that x equals the x value of your vertex. You'll know your maximum or minimum value because your max or min value will be the y value of your vertex. The domain, x equals all our numbers. The range, you're also going to use your vertex y value. It's either going to be y is greater than or equal to or less than or equal to the y value of your vertex. So the vertex is the most important thing. I recommend finding the vertex to all 3 of them, and then you could use that vertex to answer other questions. So again, here's an example. If I told you find the axis symmetry of h of x. So you find h of x, whichever one that may be, and you're going to find the axis symmetry by first finding your x value of your vertex using the vertex formula. X equals negative b over 2a. So we're going to have negative parenthesis over 2 times parenthesis. The b value is 6, the a value is negative 1, the c value we don't care about. That's 6 right there, that's negative 1 right there. So you're going to end up with negative 6 over negative 2, which means that the x value is 3. So if they just asked me, or if they just ask you for the axis of symmetry of h of x, could I just stop right here?
Yes.
Yes, because the axis of symmetry will be x equals the x value of your vertex, and that's what we just found right here. So that would be your answer that you would write on the answer column. And that's it. Now, of course, I will be asking all of these, but not all of the same one. Like on this one, I asked for the axis symmetry of h of x. I might ask for the y-intercept of, let's say y-intercept of f of x. Okay, so y-intercept, let's go to f of x. Let me see, where is it at? There it is. There's my f of x. If I want to find the y-intercept, how do we find the y-intercept? You guys remember that? Set x equal to 0. So these are a lot of things that you need to know, right? So you're going to set x equal to 0, and that's the easiest thing in the world, because when you set x equal to 0, what's your output going to be? The c value, right? The -4. So if I asked you find the y-intercept of f of x, you would say, I would write it as a coordinate 0, comma, -4. Okay? I guess if you put -4 instead of 0, comma, -4, that's fine. But I would like it as a coordinate 0, comma, -4. I might ask you to find the range, so you guys get the idea, right? Okay. And there is a video that we did all of this, right? We had all four questions, and we did it on Friday. We had all 4 questions, and we answered every single one of these to each one of these, right? So on the test, you're not going to be answering every single one of these to each one. I'm just going to ask you, find the vertex of g of x. Find the axis of symmetry of h of x. So it depends what I ask you, okay? I recommend going back to the video from Friday that had all of these and all of this done. Okay, so watch that. That'll help you get ready. That's like half of the test right there. Seriously, that's like half of the test. Okay, I believe 10 questions, like half of the test, comes from this section right here, answering these details of the certain parabolas. Okay, so the next 2 questions are going to be worth 6 points, and they come from this worksheet. Okay, we had this 4.1 to 4.3. Technically, it was 4.2. And we had graphing parabolas, and of course, stating all the details. I'm going to select 2 of these. I'm letting you know. There's going to be 2 of them that you actually have to graph. Okay, and you need to show work, especially when you find the vertex, that most important point. After you find the vertex, you don't really need to show work, because you could use the pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, or you could modify the pattern, right? So let's just pick one of these. Let's flip it over to the back. The backside has a little more entertaining questions there. Let's go with number 6. And we also have videos explaining these as well. Let's begin by finding the vertex. And do x equals -b over 2 times a. So that would be negative parenthesis over 2 times parenthesis. The b value is -8. The a value is 2. The c value we don't care about. It's not in the formula. So you have -8 divided by 2 times 2. So that changes the plus. It becomes 8 divided by 4, which is 2. So the vertex x value is 2. And we need the y value. So what we do is rewrite the entire equation exactly the way it is. Y equals, but instead of x's, I put parentheses, right? 2x squared minus 8x plus 4. And I put those parentheses there because I already know what x is. The x value of the vertex is 2. So I'm going to plug in the value of 2 right into those parentheses, which is right here, right, for the x values. So let's plug in 2 right there. Let's do the math. You could do this on the calculator. I recommend doing it by hand. Exponents first. You're going to end up with a 4. You still have times 2 right in front. 4 times 2 is 8. Might as well do this. -8 times 2, that's -16. Bring down the plus 4. So you really have 8 minus 16, that's -8, plus 4, that is -4. So we just found our y value of our vertex. So you really have 2 comma -4. If you go to that coordinate, 2 on the x, 1, 2, -1, 2, 3, 4, put a dot right there. Next thing to do would be to draw your axis of symmetry right through that vertex. The axis of symmetry equation is x equals the x value of your vertex, x equals 2. Now we need more coordinates, so you could use a table or you could use a pattern. All right, it's up to you. You don't have to do both on tomorrow's test. So if you wanted to use the pattern, go ahead and write the pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, but you'd have to modify the pattern because this a value is not 1, and this pattern is for the a value of 1. So the a value of 2 would mean you'd have to modify these outputs by multiplying them by 2. So you go times 2, times 2, times 2. So your new pattern would be 1, 2, 2, 8, 3, 18. You're not even going to use the last one. It's just 1, 2, 2, 8. So from the vertex, go 1 over, 2 up, and put a dot right there. And then you go back to the vertex, and you go 2 over, 8 up. So 2 over, 1, 2, 8 up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 right there. And of course, you're going to map them over to the other side, right? Or if you wanted to, you could have also done an XY table. I prefer the pattern, but if you want to use a table, you could do that as well. So if you're going to use a pattern, I want you to show the pattern on your test and the blank area that you have. That way I know how you got those coordinates, right? Or if you're going to use an XY table, show an XY table, and then plug in values like 0 for X. If you did plug in 0 for X, that would give you the C value 4 as your Y value. So 0, 4 would be 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. Either way, you'll get your parabola, whether you're using a XY table or your pattern, your modified pattern. So I picked this one on purpose because I had to modify the pattern. You'll probably have one where you do have to modify the pattern, and you probably have one where the A value is 1, so you could just use the pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. Okay, so there's 2 of those, all right, which is a total of 6 points of the 25. So we had a lot on answering certain questions about parabolas. You have 6 points on actually graphing 2 different functions, the way we just did right now. And then we have 3 points where I give you a quadratic equation, and you need to give me the answers just by looking at the graph of that quadratic equation. Check it out. The instructions are going to read like this. Use the related graph of each quadratic equation to determine its solution or solutions, right? So number 4 here, I know this is from a worksheet that we didn't have, but number 4 here, here's your quadratic equation. Here's the graph of it. It's like if you did it with the graphing calculator, okay? What would your answer to this guy be? What's your answer?
1, 5.
1 and 5. Remember, intercepts, the x-intercepts are the roots. They're the answers. They're the solutions. So on your answer column, you're just going to say x equals 1 and 5. Ta-da. You're going to love those, huh? There's 3 of those on the test tomorrow, okay? How about what's the answer to number 5 here? So on your answer column, you're going to actually write no solution. Or you could just put the no solution symbol, okay? So super easy, 3 free points, right? If you guys miss this, I'm going to slap you. I'm just kidding. I can't slap anybody. That's illegal. But like, nobody should get these wrong, right? All you got to do is look at where the parabola crosses the x-axis. Or, I mean, right here we had 2 answers. Right here we had no answers. But it is possible that you have your parabola that comes down and then touches and then comes back up, right? That would be 1 answer only. What would that 1 answer be right there?
5.
That would be 5, right? So x equals 5. So those are really ridiculously easy points. Okay, so far we've gone over 20 points, right? And we still have 5 to go. The other 5 questions are coming from the worksheet that we're about to do today, right? Yesterday we learned about factoring, many different methods, and the whole purpose on factoring, especially in this section, is to be able to solve equations by factoring. And as you can see, this whole page only has this portion of it where we're solving by factoring. So this is what we're going to focus in on for homework, and I'm going to select 5 of these to be on tomorrow's test. So I will be making a separate video explaining every single one of these. How about pick one? Anybody? 16 through 27. 22. Okay. So let's look at number 22. Now, we want to solve this by factoring and then splitting and solving. Okay. Well, before we do 22, how about 18? Isn't that easy?
Yeah.
Why is that easy, guys? It's a quadratic trinomial in standard form. The a value is 1, which means we could jump right into this, right? X, X. Now, it is an equation that's equal to 0, so there's still an equal 0 there. And if I did think, what times what is my c value that if I combine together is my b value, I'll be able to factor it. Now, I highly recommend to make a list, right? So whatever your c value is, make a list. What times what is 8? 1 times 8. Start with the number 1. go to the number 2. 2 times 4. 3 doesn't work. 4 is back to 4 times 2. So those are the only two possible ways. Which pair of numbers, when I combine them, gives me the b value? 2 and 4, right? 1 plus 8 is 9. That's definitely not 9. 2 plus 4 is 6. And that's 6, but it's negative, which means we have the right number, just the wrong sign, which means we have the right numbers, just the wrong signs. So let's put a negative in front of the 2 and a negative in front of the 4, and that's what we're actually going to plug in to our factored form answer format here. Now, why the heck do I want to factor? So I could use the zero product property to split it and solve. So zero product property says if I have something times something and it equals 0, the first something could equal 0, or the second something could equal 0. So that's why we split it and solve. And of course, adding 2 to both sides gives you your final answer, x equals 2. And over here, plus 4, x equals 4. Those are your two answers. If I were to have graphed this on a graphing calculator, this parabola that opens up would cross the x-axis at 2 and at 4. Anyway, you're going to have a couple of those. Now, you guys asked for 22. That's a little bit more, it's definitely different because it's not a quadratic trinomial. The a value is definitely not 1. And one thing for sure, we're going to be using the zero product property to split it and solve. And the only way you could actually split it and solve is if you actually have equals 0. Now, right here, we don't have equals 0. So what are we going to do first? Switch it over. So subtract 9x. Subtract 9x. Let's rewrite it. We're going to have 10x squared minus 9x equals 0. Okay, now if I'm able to factor, then I'll be able to split it and solve, right? So am I able to set up the parenthesis xx with this guy? Heck no, because the a value is not 1. It's not even a quadratic trinomial to start with. It's a quadratic, but not a trinomial that has an a value of 1. So I'm kind of stuck. But what's the first type of factoring you should always try? GCF. So why not try that? That's what you're always supposed to try anyway in the first place. So what could you pull out of these two terms? Well, you can't pull out a number with regards to 10 and 9, but isn't there something in common in both of them? Yeah, there's x's in both, so I could at least pull out an x. So start by pulling out that GCF of x. And what would be left on the inside? 10x minus 9. Okay, let me change it. 10x minus 9. Okay, now this is still equal to 0, correct? So I have factored. Even though it wasn't the nice, beautiful factoring that we did up here where you think what times what is a c value that if you combine together is a b value, we still factored. We just pulled out the GCF. Now, what does this mean? I have something times something equals 0. So I could split it now because of zero product property. Split them now and set them each equal to 0 and solve. So I want to take this first something and set it equal to 0. And if I solve it, well, there's nothing to solve. That's an answer already, right? But the second one, I'm going to also put 10x minus 9. That could also equal 0. And I need to solve both. Like I said, this one's already solved for us, so that's an answer. The other one, plus 9, you're going to end up with 10x equals 9. Divide by 10, x equals 9/10. So we actually have the answer x equals 0 and x equals 9/10. Those are the two answers. If you flip over to the back side of this worksheet, you'll see that those are the two answers, 0 and 9/10. Okay? So again, I will make a video explaining every single one of these, and I will pick 5 of these, right? And that'll be the total of 25 questions. And we're going to count it as a test. Unless you guys do poorly, then maybe I'll switch it to a quiz. Good luck.